All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope you don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board for the board. We hope that you enjoy. Welcome to... Thanks, Ken. Welcome to episode 85 of the KissFAQ podcast. I'm your host today, Julian Gill, admin on the KissFAQ message board. And yes, it is all my fault. Joining me today, hey, we got the whole usual gang back together. Ken, 69th Blizzard. Marcus Almighty. And that other guy, Lonnie.
What's up?
Kiss. Thank you, gentlemen. I might even put the microphone near me. So... All right, so get some news out of the way. I was just on Facebook, and apparently there's a new Kiss comic coming in October through Dynamite, written by Amy Chu, and who's the artist? Cooper Ball. I think I just butchered his or her name, but sounds like it's based on The Elder. But
oh, really?
Yeah, our heroes are twins Noah and Aaron, who join their friends from school, Alex and Adie, to find the truth about the founder of the city, the mysterious Mr. Blackwell, and the council that runs Blackwell. Not too sure on that.
I hope it's good.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, do, please.
Can I jump? Okay, well, for all you out there, I just want to say, I got this in the mail just recently, and I want to say, first off, I've been, for a long time, preaching about the Gene Ace Peter Paul book, how fantastic it is, and I've only just touched the surface of this book, and I got to say that I'm already extremely excited to finish reading this. It's excellent so far, and if you haven't gotten a chance yet to order this yet, you must do so, because it's equally as good as the solo book, and I think it might even be better in some aspects. I'm already excited to read all the little minutia bits about the recordings and all that, and that's all there. Everything that you want to know about this is there and more, so go out and grab it.
And for anyone who's wondering, the paperback isn't out yet. Actually, the book isn't out until September the 16th. Obviously, a select group of people get comps, and Mark and, well, everyone on this show is one of them. So I'm going to one-up you on the book, though. And thank you for the compliments on that. That's very kind. I'm sure Tim I'm sure Tim appreciates it as much as I do. A lot of work obviously went in. Most of it's Tim's. So let's make that very clear. I got a book in the mail this week. And, woohoo! Paperback. So, Star Child in paperback is out now. And they've done something kind of creative with the format for this. Number one, it's smaller. I mean, every time I go into one of these, it's like freaking Nigel in Spinal. It's smaller than the full-size hardbound, and they've kind of tried to recreate the kind of the cover thing. So, I'm not going to read it again, obviously. Someone else can read it and go word for word and see if there's any typos corrected or any shit like that, but I don't really think there is. So, that's the news, as far as I'm aware, for the week. So, while Britain continues to get its ass kicked by Fiji in the Rugby Sevens, let's get on with the show. Today's episode, and it would have been timely if we'd been taping on Tuesday, which of course was August the 9th, making it the 21st birthday of Kiss MTV Unplugged, which, from a personal point of view, I gotta say, this is one of my all-time favorite Kiss albums. Whether it's out of the studio catalog, the live catalog, whatever, it is just a stunning, stunning album. Incredible performance, and all that shit. So, let's talk about MTV Unplugged today. And why don't we just start with memories of the broadcast? I don't have any because it wasn't shown in Scotland.
Thanks, Julian.
Simple as that. That gets me to shut up pretty quickly, but... back, it wasn't broadcast. When was it broadcast? It was Halloween 95.
Halloween.
So it was taped on August the 9th, Sony Sound Studios in New York City. And to anyone who was lucky enough to attend that, I hate you. Lonnie, since you're so keen to jump in, broadcast memories.
Since I'm already interrupting, let's go ahead and let you talk. I didn't know that Ace and Peter were going to be there. I was watching, I remember the week of Halloween, or maybe it was the week before Halloween, I was watching MTV with my girlfriend, and I saw the commercial for it. I didn't even know that it happened. I knew they were doing, obviously I knew they were doing the conventions and everything, but I didn't know that they had taped it back in August. And I saw the commercial on MTV for Kiss Unplugged Halloween night. I'm like, oh wow, that's awesome. I was all over it. That's going to be great. And the commercial that aired on MTV prior to Halloween didn't mention, or at least the one I saw, didn't mention Ace and Peter being there. And I thought, oh, cool, is this going to be, the four guys doing what they've been doing on the convention tour, just playing Unplugged. It's going to be great. So I remember being downstairs on Halloween and watching the broadcasts in the basement and, watching song for song, coming on with Sure Know Something and World Without Heroes and, wow, this is opening with Coming Home. Like, this is fantastic. And just, eating it up and loving it as I'm watching it. And I was talking to my girlfriend on the phone while I'm watching it, and they're playing Every Time I Look at You. And then MTV's cut that they aired that night, was Paul going, we have some members of the family here, and then he brings out Ace and Peter. And I guess I was Halloween 95. I guess I was 16 years old. And I bet I screamed like a 16-year-old girl when Ace and Peter came out. I could not believe what I was seeing. And it changed my life that night. I mean, it changed a lot of Kiss fans' lives when Ace and Peter came on stage with them for the first time in so many years. So it was unbelievable to me seeing it unfold, and I wouldn't have it any other way that I didn't know that it was coming, and I guess and like today you wouldn't have gotten away with not knowing the information age that we're in now with the internet. I mean, I didn't have the internet at home in fall of 95 yet. The internet hadn't come to Missouri yet, I don't think, at that point. So, I didn't know that it was happening. I wouldn't have it any other way because I have the most fantastic memories of watching that broadcast on Halloween and just not believing my eyes what I was seeing.
Mark, how about you? Had the internet come to Canada yet? In 1995, did you have any idea about this or what?
I can't really be 100% certain about the internet. Somehow I get a feeling that it was maybe starting to cruise around our parts at that time, but I don't think I had it. But one thing I do remember is my diehard hardcore friend who I was in a band with, he had watched it on Halloween and I had missed it because I think I went out to some party somewhere and I totally missed the broadcast. And then, of course, I was kind of pissed off because I don't know why he didn't tell me that it was on. We're just bandmates, like he could have just called me or whatever, right? And I ended up missing it. But a few days later, and that's the one good thing about, I guess, Much Music over here, is they repeated it a few days later. So luckily, I was able to watch it then. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, I thought that it's just like many of you guys think that it's one of their better performances that they've ever did. And a lot of the songs have transpired over well from electric to acoustic, surprisingly well. But in a lot of ways, I'm not really surprised because I remember from as far back as I can remember, Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons used to say if the song wasn't good enough to play on an acoustic guitar, it just wasn't a good song. So basically, that would mean that most of their good material was pretty much able to be played acoustically, which I think they pretty much proved that night. So I really enjoyed it. I've always liked the MTV Unplugged format, and that's the one thing I kind of enjoyed, and I guess we'll get to that later on about the comparisons and differences. But I've always liked the way MTV did it with the kind of, there's little text for each song when they played it and how they kind of faded up the song titles in between the songs and stuff. I always kind of liked that because if you were watching another band's Unplugged performance, let's say, and you were familiar with their material and you liked that performance, at least they would show you what the song was on screen, so you would kind of get an idea of what the song was. I think it was helpful for maybe getting some, maybe a couple of other Kiss fans, to join the club because maybe they watched it and they were like, hey, I really like that song, and they knew what songs were being played and so on and so forth. So I really liked it. I thought it was a really good performance.
I got a question for you as a Canadian. Had you seen the Music Plus? Obviously, they taped that in late July. I think they did five songs at Music Plus Studios in Montreal, and I don't know where that would have been broadcast in terms in regionally in Canada and for wherever you were at the time. Did you see that? Because that was like a mini taste, to get that stuff, and it's a fantastic video. It's obviously on YouTube for those who haven't seen it.
Music Plus is actually the French version, which was broadcast in Quebec, which is the province over next to mine. I'm in Ontario, and Quebec is the one east of me. And they didn't Music Plus and Much Music. It's how it is here in Canada. The French people are very proud of their French, and the rest of us all want English. So they kind of even have it that way. They have to have their own French version of Much Music. So they kind of broadcast separately from Much Music. So, but I know on the Much Music news section, they did actually show it. I didn't get to see the whole thing, but they did show little clips of it on the news section. So I do remember seeing it, but I didn't see the whole broadcast.
That's one of the
Wasn't that just Gina and Paul in the studio on that one?
No, it was everybody.
The whole band.
Oh, it was everybody. Okay.
Yeah, Ken, you've got some homework now. So how about you going back to MTV Unplugged, the broadcast? What do you recall from the time? I think you went to the San Francisco convention. So
I went to the convention in San Francisco, so I had a taste of what it was like. I guess what it would have been like at the New York taping. Though they played. Sometimes they didn't play through full songs. They went through many songs at the convention. Some were just little snippets here and there, or what they could remember at the time. So I think I probably heard about the MTV Unplugged show. I'm going to say it was probably on the internet. I probably heard it, saw it there on the Otaku or one of those, or Asylum. So
one of those. There are only two, really bad.
One of those was
one of those
Asylum
two.
and Otaku at the time.
One of those
Kiss
two. Yeah,
Freaks and
those were,
what was the other one? Roth's Rendezvous, and I think there was R and whatever. I can't remember.
Yeah,
it's so long ago.
I remember that one.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there's only a couple out there. So I usually checked it every day just to see if there's any news, and I probably saw it there. So yeah, so when Halloween came around that night, I had my VHS tape ready and hit the record just before it was going to start, and of course it was around the time of handing out candy, so I kept having to get up. I have something. Please don't come trick or treating. So, but I had to get up and get
the old man with his lights off.
Yeah, you just put the bowl out there,
right?
Like people do. So, I remember watching it, and I thought I was excited about it. I did not know. I don't recall knowing or a rumor about Ace and Peter maybe coming on there and playing. I don't remember anything about that, if that happened. But I was pretty excited to see them. Did I know or think that this was going to turn into a reunion? I really didn't think it was, because based on what Gene and Paul were saying, prior to this, all the bad things they were saying about Ace and Peter. So it didn't seem like it was going to happen, but
yeah,
they surprised us. Right?
Yeah, that revenge tour was just so successful that they really just wanted to keep going down that path, right?
Yeah, I guess they were running out of money, so they saw the dollar signs and decided to do it. So yeah, I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was great. Of course, anything New Kiss and then playing music. It was a great production. I was happy about the stage design and everything about it. The backdrop, the floor with the rock and roll over. I thought, oh man, that's just so cool. And then the mannequins up high behind. I said, oh yeah, I saw that at the convention. So it was good. I really enjoyed that.
And they were really well rehearsed by that time. Obviously, this is what pretty much the final, full performance of the band, the 92, 95 lineup. So they had done all the songs throughout the convention tour. They had found what works, and in they go, and boom, they pretty much nailed it. I think I didn't get to hear it until the bootlegs came out, and you started to get some bits and pieces. And it's so long ago now, 21 years, 20 years since the album came out. March of '96, I think. That it's all a bit fuzzy. I know that on the Kiss Army Online board on AOL, that's where I got all my news back then. So I knew what had happened. I knew what had been performed. And I just thought it was incredibly exciting because at that time, obviously, you've got the convention tour occurring, and I'm collecting bootlegs from the tour because that's the only way in Scotland that there was to really get anywhere near it. So I was excited about it. I don't remember when I found out that Peter and Ace had been there. I just remember vaguely, I guess, again, not being that overly excited that they had been there. It was more like, uh-oh, what's coming next? It just seemed to... It rolls together so quickly when you go from August of '95 into the reunion rumors, into everything else kind of snowballing. So, it was a very exciting time to be on the internet, and it's something that we've completely lost nowadays, even having official websites and, message boards and Facebook. The immediacy, that it wasn't all there still, and that you still had to do some work to find stuff out, and you often had to wait for Metal Edge to see some pictures. So that's all that's all I really recall, and I've never seen the MTV broadcast to this day. So
really,
yeah, I've only got the video. Simple as that. That videotape. I eventually had the DVD, and when it became worth like $99, I put it up on eBay and said, "Fine, you can have it." I've got the album. I don't watch DVDs that often. I listen to the music. So when Kissology 3 came out, then I got really excited because obviously you've got the extended cut on there, which is vastly superior to the original DVD. And okay, let's get into where do we want to go next on this one? Yeah, let's talk about rankings, really. I mean, I said right at the top of the show that this is one of my all-time favorite Kiss albums. It is just an incredible performance. Where does this kind of rate for you guys individually when you stack it up against the rest of the catalog? And Lonnie's looking like he's thinking really, really hard. I'm going to go straight to him. I'm like the teacher from hell. You look at the kid in the class who's looking really uncomfortable.
Either
looking
shying away.
The one who's about to have a panic attack. Don't pick me. Don't pick me. Anything but Slytherin.
Slytherin.
I think that I would put. I mean, including. We often talk about ranking albums. And we talk about ranking studio records, but if we're going to include live records, and usually when we do that, we don't include the live records. You know what I mean? If I'm going to rank albums. But if I'm going to include live albums in my rankings of my favorite Kiss albums, it'd be hard for me not to put this in my top 5. Mm-hmm. Because it's that good, in my opinion. And the band sounds, I mean, even without, the final 4 tracks on there with Ace and Peter, the band just sounds incredible and brings new life to a lot of songs that were pretty listless on the studio recordings, including, like Coming Home just sticks out immediately in my mind. And it's not on the CD release. You have to get it on either a bootleg or something. But the version of Got to Choose that they played that night is, in my opinion, maybe my favorite version of Got to Choose.
It's on my album.
Look at you.
It's on the vinyl, too.
Yeah, it's on the vinyl.
On the vinyl, on the Japanese CD.
I got this one here. Yeah, I brought this one with me. I don't know if you guys can see that. I don't know if you guys have this one or not. It kind of opens up.
What is that? Is that...
Ooh, I got something Julian didn't have.
Where's that from?
I don't know. It's
like a
bonus. It has a bonus disc on it. It has the DVD, MTV Unplugged on it, the DVD on it as well.
Is that a bootleg?
I think it's a bootleg.
Oh, okay. Fine.
It's pretty cool,
it
though.
Might be the
yeah, it's very cool.
Retakes and all that stuff.
Doesn't make it any less cool, but this is it doesn't have the Got to Choose on there either. I was looking to see if it did, but I really like the version of Got to Choose, and Coming Home. I just think the album just really stands up when you look at the songs on there and how, like, even the version Every Time I Look at You, I think is fantastic on there too, as opposed to, as much as I sing Revenge's praises on this show, I think the version of Every Time I Look at You is fantastic on this record also. So I'd be hard pressed not to rank it in my top 5 favorite Kiss albums.
Yeah, very difficult. And Mark, I want to go to you next because Sonics, I find this to be one of the best sounding Kiss albums. So I want to get your take on that as well, from your perspective, because you're like the fountain of knowledge when it comes to the musicality side of things. What's your take on this, on whatever the freaking question was?
Well, basically, just to answer first my ranking of it, if we're including everything, just like Lonnie said, then I would put it high. I wouldn't put it top 5 for me, but I would definitely put it in my top 10. I think it would probably sit around 8 or so out of my top 10. I think that's pretty respectable, all things considered. And like I said before, it's a great record. Now, talking about the sonics of it, I was very happy with it. I mean, whether it's on vinyl or on CD or on DVD, on 5.1 or whatever, it's really well done. And I mean, I think one of the main reasons why it turned out so well was because, again, they had the benefit of doing this on a nightly basis for a while and figured out what worked and what didn't as far as different miking techniques and different ways to set up the stage and where, because acoustic guitars are notoriously bad for feeding back on stage. Now, and I don't remember offhand, I'm thinking that they did the acoustic guitars. You can buy these little round foam pieces that you can put into the holes that are behind the string that prevent feedback from the monitors on stage. Nowadays, most people use in-ears, so you wouldn't have as big a problem with that nowadays. But back then, I'm still sure they were using ground monitors, and so that would be used to prevent that sort of a feedback happening. And also, I don't know if you guys were aware of this or not, but MTV had a standing rule that to play on the MTV Unplugged, you had to play with full acoustic. You couldn't use a plug-in acoustic guitar. You had to have an acoustic guitar that was mic'd from the front. There was none of this plugging in bit that they were doing in the conventions, because I remember when you look at some of the convention footage, they had these small little Laney amplifiers on stage. And I know Bruce for sure, and even Paul, I think too, plugged in theirs and mic'd it. So they had a really, really huge acoustic guitar sound on the conventions, and MTV wasn't having that for their performances on there. I know every band had to do that. They had to just come in, sit on a stool, and put mics in front, and that was your sound. They wanted a true, authentic acoustic sound for it, which also helped the drum sound because you didn't have anything else coming in and, getting into the sound in the air surrounding the drum, so they could get a really nice drum sound. And I think, honestly, Eric Singer's drum set sound on this is phenomenal. It just sounds perfect. Like every little cymbal hit, every little hi-hat thing he's done, you can hear it perfectly because he didn't have all kinds of other instruments just blaring around him and getting leakage into his drum mics. It was completely just isolated from everything else. And because of that, because of the way they set it up on stage, everybody was sort of isolated nicely. The vocals, the guitars, the acoustic bass is notoriously difficult to get a decent sound from because it's such a low frequency, and to get the miking nice in there to get that sound, they did a great job. And I mean, that's why Gene probably went through about a half dozen acoustic basses and settled on that Kramer acoustic bass of all basses. Who would have thought, right? But it had the best sound on stage, and that's why he stuck with it. And I think that they did a great job with that, and I think that it should be highly commended for being one of the best audio sounding recordings they've done.
And if I recall, Bruce was playing Ovation, I think.
Yeah.
Nice instruments. I love Gene's bass on that, by the way. That was one of the things, and I got to say that Eric, his drumming, his mic setup on that was just phenomenal. It was, just crystal, and the whole thing with it is that the mix is just perfect. It's just so well balanced. Ken, let's go to you on the question, and I still can't remember what the question.
Question is how you rank.
Ranking.
Where do you rate it in your overall? Sorry. Sorry.
I rank this if I'm including everything. it's really hard, but I have to put it somewhere in the area of 10. You know, top 10, probably somewhere near 10, 9 or 10. I'd put it there because I can't get over all the, you know, the classic stuff. It's hard for me to put this ahead of some of the real classics. So, but 10 is still pretty high. It's, you know, it's above Crazy Nights and Hot in the Shade and a number of others for me. It's ahead of Animalize.
It's a hot
so
take.
Yeah. I know that's hard to believe, but you know. So yeah, it's a great album, and like you said, the sound of it is just fantastic. I mean, it was so well done, and I wish they would do that on some of their other stuff. Like, you know, if Monster sounded that good or something like that, it would have been great.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
That's another show.
Yeah, that is a whole other show. Let's go a little bit track by track here, and just keep in mind, and let's try and pick 3 favorites, 3 of your all-time favorite songs out of this. I'll go first, again, I don't do any notes or anything for the show, so this is all, you know, straight off the cuff for me. Coming Home.
You mean like me?
Yeah,
I just
we had a 2-hour show prep meeting without you, Julian, that we all discussed what we were going to talk about today.
Well, I mean, could you have freaking hosted that, and I could just. All right, so getting back on target. Coming Home, obviously, first song on the album, on the performance. Unbelievable what they do to that. I mean, getting to hear something crystal clear. I was always thrilled going through all the bootlegs of the convention era with that song. It was just one of those really quirky ones that I would never have guessed that they would do. If I was going to pick the acoustic set for Kiss in 1995, if they'd said, Julian, we're going out on an acoustic tour, please come up with 27 songs for us to do, it wouldn't have been on my list. Simple as that. I probably would have been pedestrian. I mean, it would have been Rock and Roll All Night and Detroit Rock City. Okay. Next one, and Every Time I Look at You is just the definitive. You know, this is all about Paul for me on this album because his vocal performances are just incredible. Absolutely unbelievable. And he really took that song to a new place for me. And that's as good as it is on Revenge as well with Ezrin's production. Just fantastic. And number 3, I Still Love You. Same reason. You know, it's powerhouse vocals. So I'm really. It's I Still Love You on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Take.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
I was having a brain fart there for a second, like, holy fuck, it's not on there. But yeah, single take as well, which I know he said on the rehearsal version, you know, I want to do Every Time I Look at You again. Why? Because I like the song or something to that effect. So, you know, he obviously likes that stuff. And back then when he could hit it out of the ballpark, he certainly did. Ken, how about you?
For me, Going Blind was probably my favorite one on this release because I kind of liked it anyway before when it was on Hotter Than Hell, but it's so much better in this form. I mean, it just brings new life to it, and it was meant to be played acoustically, I believe, this song, and not electric like it was on Hotter Than Hell. So that one, I just love it acoustic. I think it's fantastic. I could hear that thing over and over. I will not get sick of it. Another one is See You Tonight from the Gene Simmons solo. I that was always my favorite song off of his solo album, and it translated perfectly. I mean, it pretty much sounded like his solo album. It was very close to the version and the sound, so it was really good, and I like that Beatlesque type song itself. And the other one, like you, Julian, every time I look at you, man, on Revenge, it was, it was pretty good. It's probably my least favorite song on Revenge, but once I heard it done on Unplugged, it's like, holy God, this is really it's really good, and them bringing the orchestra in to help them out, the strings and so on, was just fantastic. So those are my top three on Unplugged.
It was an unholy performance. There you go. Lonnie.
I would have to. I mean, it's not going to be much different than what you guys are saying, really. Coming Home, I mentioned it earlier. I think is fantastic. It's obviously my go-to version of that song. I mean, I rarely, if I want to listen to that song, I rarely turn on the Hotter Than Hell version of that song. I mean, it is my go-to version of that song. And I'm going to say Sure Knows Something also, I think, really sounds really crisp and clear, the way they did that. They really, and again, like I mentioned earlier, just breathes new life into these songs. Not that Sure Knows Something sounds bad on Dynasty, but the way they played it that night just sounds, I mean, the sound on that whole album is fantastic. So that one, and then my third one, I'm going to agree with you again on Every Time I Look at You. I mean, it's good on Revenge, and it's even better on here, and it breathes new life into it, for lack of better terms. I keep repeating myself. Sorry.
Was that three?
That's three.
That's three.
Every Time I Look at You, Coming Home, and Sure Knows Something.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so for me, I thought about this for a while, and the songs that kind of stand out for me, two of them stand out for one reason, and one of them stand out for a different reason. The one is the same as Ken, which to me is See You Tonight, which I thought was, to me, sort of a surprise song. I didn't really expect him to dip into any solo record material for this. I really thought they would just keep it with the strict Kiss, albums that they did together. So to hear that, it was kind of a surprise. I mean, it's just a perfect song to use for MTV Unplugged if you think about it. I mean, it is meant to be an acoustic song, right? So what a better song to pick than that. Now, the other two songs that kind of really jumped out at me that I really enjoyed were ones that I kind of were surprised that translated as well to acoustic, because I've always thought of them as such great, electric rocking songs. And one of them is Do You Love Me? I mean, that to me has always been one of those songs I thought that were really, well done. As in production wise, I'm not huge on Destroyer, as we all know, but I mean, that's one of the songs that he did a great production job on. But I really love the way they adapted the guitars in this, because I mean, the harmony lines at the end that they would do normally in electric, I love the way they just turned into kind of these arpeggiated, picked out pieces at the end. It just turned out really nice, and I thought, wow, what a great way to do that whole ending section on acoustic. It just sounded so nice, and it just showed that they actually put some time and effort into rearranging these songs. And the other song that I think worked out really well for just similar reason is Got to Choose. I mean, that's one of those songs that I always think of as electric, but when they played it on acoustic, it just seems like you could bust that out around a campfire with all your friends and play that song. I mean, it's pretty simple to play as it is, but it's such a great song. And it's all about the singing. I mean, when they pull out those 3-part harmonies in there, that's, if you nailed them, it sounds awesome, So, and that just goes to show how good a band they were for, as far as vocally, they were really great. And I mean, playing Unplugged, I'm sure most musicians will tell you that is very unforgiving. You can't hide behind screaming, like you can behind screaming guitars on an acoustic stage like that, right? I mean, you got to know you're singing and know it well. In retrospect, the one song that I kind of wish that they would have played, and especially since they had an orchestra there, and I thought this was a missed opportunity, was I thought they should have played Great Expectations, because they had an orchestra there. That would have been a great time to do that on MTV Unplugged. I thought that would have gone over really well, but I'm really happy with what they played in anyways. So
I think the three of you kind of raise a really interesting kind of point, and you've all picked a lot of Hotter Than Hell stuff. Going Blind,
yeah.
The three Hotter Than Hell songs that are on here, and it's really indicative of just how goddamn good those songs actually are, and perhaps they're overlooked because of the sludgy production of the album. Here we are singing the praises of songs that have translated back well into the acoustic format that probably started off life acoustically, and with proper production, with proper, care and consideration given to that material, it's like, oh my goodness, how good these songs really, really are. I mean, the Going Blind, fantastic again, a phenomenal performance, arrangement, got to choose. It's just really, really cool. You peel back the layers and get to really appreciate those songs. So it's nice to, hear all that when I kind of went pedestrian with my choices. Okay.
All right. We did our homework.
Okay, well, I obviously didn't, so fine. Screw you. What's your definitive version that you either watch or listen? Are you a listener or are you a watcher? Are you one who likes to go back to the original MTV recording, get the original DVD, or Kissology? For me, it's all about Kissology these days. And if I'm at the office, I've got the full uncut audio boot on my computer so that I can listen to that. Lonnie, what's your go-to?
Yeah, if I'm gonna sit down and watch it, it's the Kissology version for sure. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And you watch it, you can watch obviously the two different ways, but the commentary with Gene and Paul and Bruce on it also makes it even better. So that's definitely my go-to version of it. I held up this little guy earlier. It actually has the MTV version, on there. It's like the MTV version even has that, the little interviews that they had on there before also was on there. So, but I mean, I think I've watched that the one time since I got it because I think that the Kissology version is so superior that if I'm gonna sit down and actually watch that performance, there's no doubt which version I'm gonna pull out.
Yeah, come on, Kissology and just disc one. Come on, you've got the Palace '92 show followed by MTV Unplugged.
Doesn't get much better than that.
No, I mean that's just fantastic. That's a couple hours of good viewing. Ken, how about you? What's yours go-to?
Yes, the go-to for me would be the video. I'll be Kissology. Yeah, I think I pulled it out not that long ago and watched it on there. So that's the one to go. I mean, if I'm in my car, sure, I'm gonna. You can't watch me in a car. I don't want to get into an accident.
You could.
You could. Some people probably do.
Tesla auto drive. Oh, let's watch it.
Yeah. Let's let the car drive while I watch this DVD. So, but yeah, that's so good. And, it's just the whole thing, the whole production, the sound, the music, and again, the stage and the backdrop is it's so nice to watch. And you can tell they're really enjoying themselves. On stage too, and so that's the one for me.
Mark, how about you? What's your go-to version?
Well, I'm gonna have to echo the same as you guys. I mean, a lot of the time I find that when I'm in my little office and I have a little laptop where I do a lot of my corresponding with various different things, whether it's online magazines or whatever it is for my band stuff or whatever. I usually have something running in the background, whether it's Kissology on DVD or maybe a Rush concert or something. Just something is going on, and usually Kissology is my go-to, just mainly because of the fact that they're so long, these discs, and I don't have to keep getting up and doing stuff, and I can focus on one thing as well as watching the show, because I can being a Gemini, I can multitask. So I really enjoy my my DVDs for that, because I think some people can do that where they can have something running in the background and work at the same time. And I know there's lots of people who just don't like doing that too, where they like just like having peace and quiet and working on stuff that way. But I usually find music is beneficial to my work environment, and MTV Unplugged is probably even more so beneficial because while it's still rocking stuff, it's acoustic and it's a bit more pleasant to the ear in some circumstances. So I really like watching that.
That's really good. I think the Kissology version, I mean, obviously it's got 5 songs that didn't either make the album, didn't make the original video. Hard Luck Woman, Heaven's on Fire, Spit, Come On and Love Me, and the God of Thunder, which I don't really want to.
Country.
No,
Country version.
The
it
Abomination.
doesn't count. It doesn't count.
I just loaded the album into Winamp, and it tells me, even with Got to Choose, that the album's only an hour long. So I want to ask you guys, if you had to pick 2 Kiss songs from the catalog, anything up to obviously 96, what do you think are the most glaring omissions from MTV Unplugged as an album? And also for the video, for that matter, because, I mean, I would have kept Hard Luck Woman on from the get-go. I know that might have been a little bit problematic with Peter coming on later and all that sort of crap, but, you know, again, as a Paul powerhouse vocal performance, I would have kept that. I would have kept Come On and Love Me just because it's a personal favorite. And you don't have to pick from the songs that were, you know, performed that night. You can go anywhere you want in the catalog, even to, well, we won't go there. Ken.
Okay. You said up to 96, so yeah. And I would have liked to have heard Black Diamond acoustic. I don't know. I think it could have been pulled off. I think it, you know, of course it starts that way, but I think it would have worked even for the riffing part of it. So Black Diamond, I would have liked to have heard that way. And then another one would have been, I thought maybe Magic Touch would have been an interesting pull from Dynasty. I mean, there's a lot that, I mean, I could have said, you know, maybe Reason to Live. That was another possibility or something like that. But yeah, those couple of songs would have been good.
Lonnie, now apart from Unholy, what song would you like to have had on there?
I mean, listen to Paul Stanley's vocals on this album, and Paul is really at maybe his very best at this point. I don't know if there's a better Paul Stanley vocal performance. And considering the amount of success they had a few years prior to this with Forever, I was really surprised that they didn't attempt to put that on there. So I'm gonna go with that, and I'm gonna go with Come On and Love Me also, just because it's a personal favorite, and I have a boot of that audio, and I really enjoy it. So I was just, it's kind of disappointing that it didn't make the final cut also. So those 2 for me, but I think Forever would have been an interesting choice. And I understand maybe that we don't want to have I Still Love You, Every Time I Look at You, and Forever have all those ballads mixed in there, but it was a hit for them. It was one of their bigger hits, period. So it's kind of surprising to me that it's an omission.
Yeah, I mean, if you consider this is 1996, that's not too far removed from 1991, where they had a hit with "God Gave Rock and Roll to You," too, in in England, and "Forever" in the States, and that both of those are kind of omitted from this whole picture is, somewhat odd. I mean, obviously, my choice of "Hard Luck Woman," yours of "Forever" would perhaps overload it in terms of the Paul vocal powerhouse songs. I also want to say that, you said that Paul is at his peak here. I think that Gene is singing really, really, really well on this album and his material. And I can't remember which one of you chaps it was who said, "See You Tonight." Just the performance on there and Gene, unbelievable again. So, Mark, let's get to you and your picks. What kind of songs do you think should be on an MTV Unplugged?
Well, I made a whole actual MTV Unplugged Part 2 set list, so I'm going to pull 2 of them off of there. I did a whole reworking of a record with nothing that was played from the first one.
Mm-hmm.
So
we'll get to that one a little bit later.
Okay, but the 2 of them that for sure to me are an omission, and this one would have been the one that I would have opened with if it was up to me. Don't get me wrong, Coming Home was great. This is if there was to be an alternate version of this. I would open with Rise to It. To me, that is a great song that could have been pulled over onto acoustic. I mean, it starts off with that kind of great acoustic slide. I'm sure Bruce or somebody could have came out there with the slide and started it off, and they could have just went right into it like perfect. It's almost like a Cinderella kind of song, when they can just come out there and play it. I think that would have went over just as strongly, in my opinion, as Coming Home did, because that sounds like that was a song that was meant to be played on acoustic. And the other song, which I think might be a surprise to some of you guys, but I think that it would have been kind of cool if they would have played this, because they would have pulled something off a record that really wasn't represented, is Doing Larger Than Life. I thought that's a great song to do on acoustic guitar, and it would have been a good Gene song to do. I think that song has acoustic straight through the whole song if you listen to it, and if you just pulled out the electric guitars, you have a whole acoustic version of the song right there. And I think that would have went over really good. And like you were saying, Gene is probably at his vocal peak at this point too, so that would have sounded awesome, I think.
Very, very good picks there.
Wait 1 second. So that was Daniel from Sweden. He's.
I was going to say sorry about it.
That his one song would have been "Fits Like a Glove." He would have liked that one.
Very nice.
Yeah, and what, that would have gone down as well as Spit.
You know what? That Spit version, I enjoy it. I enjoyed it. I think it had a good groove on it, acoustically. Believe it or not, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. So now let's get into the song. What songs do not work on this for you? Are there any? Obviously, I've just gone with Spit, but and God of Thunder, I just thought was stupider than hell to be doing that with it. I never got it. Obviously, not the right demographic. What are the failures, if any? And if you don't have any, you don't have to try and come up with one. Lonnie.
You know what? I don't think there is a failure on this album. I think they were very, very well rehearsed by the time they got to New York from playing the conventions across the U.S. all summer, and from what they started in Australia prior to that. I think they found out what worked and what didn't work, and went with those tracks when it came time to record. And yeah, the God of Thunder is cheesy and it's stupid, and that's kind of like at the point in the show where they were kind of farting around waiting for them to change the set to getting ready to bring out Ace and Peter. And it was never really meant or intended to be part of the recording. So, I mean, I really just kind of throw that away when I think about, what they did that night. I think what the songs that they also were playing at that time when they were changing the set with Come On and Love Me and Hard Luck Woman, those worked really well. Maybe you could say, maybe if you're going to say the failures, if there's any failures, I would say, it would be Spit and God of Thunder if you want to include those in there. And those are, just the songs that they were screwing around with when they were changing the set list. I mean, I think the songs that they included on the album proper are perfect. I don't think there's any failures, in my opinion.
Absolutely, Ken. What say you?
Yeah, no real failures. I may have, replaced a couple of songs, but it was all good. I mean, I don't skip anything when I'm listening to it, so it's no failures at all.
Mark.
Well, I'm going to go pretty much the same way, but I'm going to mention one thing that I found interesting about that was the songs that they did and they performed that were part of their rehearsed set were fantastic. There's nothing bad in there at all. But it did also show me something very glaring to me, is that when Kiss are unrehearsed and have to pull out something out of the hat, they're not really that kind of band that can just jam on the spot and pull out a song. I mean, it's evident with, Heaven's on Fire and all these other songs that they did. They are obviously weak in performance compared to the ones that they've sat down and worked on for a long period of time. I mean, you compare Coming Home to even Come On and Love Me, the version that they did there, it's not anywhere near as good in strength and rehearsed as well, obviously, right? But that's not a slag to them. I'm just saying that you can tell the material they really worked on, because when they really devoted themselves and dedicated to making them as good as they could be, they sounded phenomenal. And, that's why I never thought that it was a good idea for them to kind of say any requests, because that just doesn't seem to go very good with them, because they seem to train wreck sometimes on those. So,
Yeah, good point. What about, when you look at the stuff that they do when Peter and Ace come out? 2000 Men, obviously we've heard the story that, Ace's first choice would have been Shock Me, but that's impossible to adequately do on a acoustic. Well, whatever. Beth is kind of obvious. You've got the orchestra there, just like you mentioned with Great Expectations. Peter getting to do Beth with a orchestra is just, fantastic. And Nothing to Lose, which to me, that's a kind of off-the-wall pick, really, but one that's a little bit too obvious that it gives all of them the opportunity to sing. So, would you change any of those and give Ace a different song other than 2000 Man and have the four of them doing something other than Nothing to Lose, or are those perfectly adequate? Is that as good as you're going to get? Because I think with Peter, you've got the challenge. Obviously, Beth is very obvious, and obviously they'd also done Hard Luck Woman earlier in the set, but should they have done Hard Luck Woman with Peter as well, and Ace, and maybe something instead of Nothing to Lose, something a little less anal? Ken?
Yeah, I agree. I think they should have done Hard Luck Woman with Peter. I would have rather have heard that than Beth, in my opinion. The other one, Nothing to Lose, that one, I would have rather have heard maybe She on that, instead. I would have liked to have heard that one done. And as for an Ace song, I've never been 2000 Man. It hasn't always, it's not one of my favorites. I would have rather have him done maybe either what is it, New York Groove, or the other one, Two Sides of the Coin. I would have rather have heard those two over 2000 Man.
Right.
So.
Or Save Your Love. I was trying to work that out on the acoustic.
Yes,
I gave up. That was just, my fingers were bleeding trying to get something working with that. So, Lonnie.
I think Talk to Me might have been an interesting choice too for them to try, for Ace to sing. It's, it might be a little disappointing. As much as good as 2000 Man sounds, that it is a cover song that, you bring Ace Frehley out for the first time in how many years, and I didn't know it was on a Kiss album, but it's still a cover song at the end of the day. It's a little disappointing that, he didn't get to sing one of his written tunes. So I think, a Talk to Me, or like Ken said, a Two Sides of the Coin, or something like that might have been a better choice. Not that 2000 Man sounds bad. It sounds really good, and it sounds better there than it does on Dynasty. But it might have been nice to have Ace Frehley do an Ace Frehley song, and not a cover song. So, but I think Beth is an obvious choice. I think you had to do Beth, as much as people may be burnt out on the song, but they hadn't played Beth live since the Dynasty tour at that point. And to bring Peter Criss out and not do Beth, I think people would have been up in arms at why didn't you do it at that particular moment. So
absolutely, very understandable from that point of view.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and I don't have a problem with Nothing to Lose. I think, like you said, it gives everybody a chance to be heard a little bit on there, and I think it was a good song for them to play as a 6-man Kiss, if you will.
Mark.
Well, I kind of agree that they maybe should have did a different song for Ace. I mean, I'm all for Talk to Me for him to do that, because honestly, I think that an open G tuning kind of song sounds really good on acoustic, always has, and would have translated really well on a stage like that. I think that song can be played really well on acoustic guitar and would sound good. The fact that the strings are a bit lower in tuning, an acoustic guitar always sounds better tuned lower than it does higher. They always said that the optimal tuning for an acoustic guitar is not E, it's tuned in D, a whole step lower is what you should really have an acoustic guitar tuned to. So that's actually works in perfectly for a song like Talk to Me. I liked Nothing to Lose, if anything, because I thought it gave the world the benefit of seeing how great a singer Eric Singer was. I think that to me was the biggest surprise of that song, is how good Eric Singer was as a lead singer. I thought, wow, this is great. He was the best guy in that song, in my opinion. So I had no problem with that. But I would have chose a different song. And for my everybody on stage song, and just for a little side note here, I would have included Vinny as my come on to stage as well for this, because I have him included in my revised MTV there. But all of them, including Vinny, Ace, and Peter on stage all together, I wanted them to all 7 of them then do Let Me Go Rock and Roll. I thought that would have been a really good song to do acoustically, and all 6 or 7 of them on stage to do that song.
That's interesting. All right, I'm gonna throw out 2000 Man. And what was the song that Ace wrote that he was actually singing by this time? Cold Gin. I think it would have been
Cold Gin.
It would have been
Yeah,
a
that would have been good.
perfect. And I was sitting there going, "Don't say it, Lonnie, Ken, don't say it, Mark." Oh, no one said it. Good. Yay!
Bastards, don't say it.
Yay!
Yeah, steal my thunder.
You know, any of the songs that Ace or Peter, particularly Ace, hadn't sung or didn't sing much, it was a great opportunity. I don't know how well Cold Gin would actually go down acoustically, though. It's kind of one I'm a little bit on the fence about. I can't quite hear it in my head. It's not one I've ever gotten my acoustic out and given I'm going to try and play a Cold Gin on the acoustic today. It's never been one of those ones I've thought about messing around with. But I think it would have been a much better song to have Ace do, because it was one that he did all the time. It was one that he never did with Kiss, and it just would have been a little bit too obvious for me, other than 2000 Man, which would not have been my pick. And then there's not that much else that I think he could really perform. You're not going to get him doing, Parasite? No.
Torpedo Girl?
Dark Light? No. Doesn't work. So that's the only one. Nothing to lose. And I was so glad, Mark, you mentioned Eric Singer and how, we got to 55 minutes in this show and no one had said how good Eric Singer sounds. And it really was a revelation, his vocals. So, I mean, Black Diamond, that comes into the picture as well, as a possible song, because he sang plenty of that, didn't he? So, let's go into that question. Were Kiss to do a Unplugged II? And straight out of the bat, don't even say or think that Paul Stanley doesn't sing to this level anymore. This is everyone out there. This is fantasy. If MTV Unplugged II had come along, in Fantasyland, what are the songs that you would love to have the band try? And Mark, let's go straight to you on that, because you're also so punctual with your homework.
Okay, so I'll go straight through them, and I kind of arranged them to make it kind of make sense to kind of go between Gene and Paul, and also to kind of bring in some songs that maybe people might not have expected to hear at that time. So I would have opened with Rise to It. I would have went into Strutter then after that. Then I would have gone into Ladies' Room for Gene to start. Then Larger Than Life for another one to have Gene. And here I wanted to put an oddball song after Larger Than Life, something a bit newer at that time. So I put in We Are One. I put that in as one song that they could probably do easily acoustically, and Gene could sing as well. Now I wanted to put in now, since they had a solo song in from the acoustic side on the last one that they did, the first one there, I Wouldn't You Like to Know Me on acoustic, that they do Paul's song there. I thought that would go over really well. And another one, since they were doing an odd song there, I would put an odd Gene song in, so I put Only You from The Elder to put on acoustic there. I thought that would go over well with those two there. Then after that, I had I Want You to be after that. I thought that would go really good on acoustic. And then I went back to Gene's solo record after that. I put in Mr. Make Believe. I thought that would be a good song on acoustic to do. And I thought that he would be able to play that and sing it fairly well. Now, here's a song that might not be very popular amongst the Kiss people, the next two actually, but I thought that this might be a good one to put in. Tomorrow and Tonight to do acoustic. I thought that could be kind of an interesting song to do acoustically. And then I would do Kissing Time after that to kind of go back to their earliest root sort of thing. Now, at this point, they would bring out members of the family, and they'd bring out Vinny first. So when they bring Vinny out, I would get them to do Lick It Up acoustically with him. And then after that, I would get them to bring Ace out. And now Vinny would stay, and they would do all together Talk to Me. Then after that, they would bring Peter out now, and they would do, not what you're probably thinking, I would get them to do Hooked on Rock and Roll with him on there from his solo record. Now, at this point, they would bring everybody back out again. And so everybody's there, all 7 people, and they would do Let Me Go Rock and Roll first. And then they would close the night with everybody still on stage and do Black Diamond.
Wow. And
yeah.
do you have the lighting done as well with this?
When the flash pots go off. And
No, I don't have all the cues worked out yet for that stuff.
No, that's awesome. Lonnie.
It's good. I'd like them to see, and they've done this recently on some of these Unplugged stuff that they've done, is I'd like to see them do Love 'Em, Leave 'Em. I think that worked really well with the recordings I've heard of them doing that. I'd like to hear Let Me Know, just because it's one of my favorite Kiss songs, and I'd like to hear them do it.
That is just so acoustic. That is
perfect.
That's like nearly like the most obvious Kiss song to do acoustically in a way.
Yeah, I think that'd be, I think that's a given, as much as that song's neglected. I'd like to hear Mr. Speed. I think that would sound great acoustically also. They played it once on the cruise, and I thought it sounded really good acoustically. So I'd like to hear a good version of that. I put Lick It Up in there also, just because it's Lick It Up, but it's still a no-brainer that they could pull that off very well, like Mark said too. I agree with Mark on that. And a Paul Stanley solo. How about Tonight You Belong to Me? I think that might be an interesting one to try also. So those are the kind of the ones that I've worked out, and knowing Kiss, they still have to throw back in some of the ones that they've already done, because, they're Kiss. They're not going to do everything brand new. So
I was just dreaming.
Mark's list was fantastic, but I guess my list is realistic because I know who I'm dealing with at the end of the day. I don't set the bar too high so I don't be disappointed. So I'm not going to be disappointed.
Mine's like a bizarro world Kiss there.
All right, Ken, have you go.
Here's my list, but this isn't in order like Mark had it all planned out. Mine is just pretty much chronological right now. So here's the songs I would have liked on if they were going to do a Unplugged II today, or recently, or in the last couple of years. Okay, first song I chose was Black Diamond, which I mentioned earlier when we were talking about other songs. Then Come On and Love Me is another one. She, I mentioned that one before also. I thought She would be a good acoustic. I picked Shout It Out Loud. I thought I'd like to hear that acoustic. I'd like to see how that sounds. I thought it would be interesting to hear a version of that in acoustic. I never heard it acoustic. I don't know if they've ever done it acoustic as far as I know. They may have done it in one of their pre-concert things, but I'm not sure. And then I Want You is another one. It's kind of a given as far as I'm concerned. Christine 16 is another Gene song. Tonight You Belong to Me, just like Lonnie was talking about there. New York Groove is what I mentioned before earlier too, and Magic Touch. I'd still like to hear that one acoustic. I'd like to hear Dirty Livin', especially if you can get Peter on there. I'd love to hear that one. Even Eric Singer, I'd probably do that one pretty well. I'd like to hear that one. And then from the Elder, I'd like to hear Under the Rose acoustic. I think that would be very, very good and interesting. I just love that song, so I thought the riffing acoustically would be very interesting on that.
Yeah.
And then A Million to One is another one I'd like to hear. Then Hide Your Heart. I thought would work well acoustic also, with the sing along kind of thing going on. God Gave Rock and Roll to You is another one I thought would work. Then we get to some of the newer stuff. Journey of 1,000 Years. I'd like to hear that acoustic, unplugged. And then and also then the next one, Freak.
Ooh,
I'd like to hear that one.
yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. So those are them. If Vinny was going to come on stage, I'd like to hear them try to pull off a War Machine unplugged. See if they can pull that one off somehow.
All right, here we go with mine. I'm going to start off, and the rest of them aren't in order. I would just start off with a Room Service. Kind of like how you do Coming Home with the first one. Do Room Service with that, and that's as original as I get. Then a lot of the songs you've already mentioned. I mean, Christine 16 was just kind of like another really obvious one. Let Me Know, I Want You. I mean, I Want You, the introduction, obviously is already acoustic anyway, 12-string, but make the whole thing acoustic. I think it could be really cool. Magic Touch, again, I go for some of the in my head, I go for some of the powerhouse Paul vocals here. That's just what he could have done back then. Cold Gin, I've already mentioned. For the Ace song, She, I just I love playing that. I whenever I'm pottering around on guitar, I end up going into those riffs. They're just so much fun. Forever, A Million to One. God Gave Rock and Roll to You too. I like Mr. Make Believe and Wouldn't You Like to Know Me. Hide Your Heart. I don't think anyone's mentioned that one yet.
No,
I mentioned it.
You didn't? Yeah. No, Rise Your Heart, you mean?
Well, that's the
that's a different version.
And my last one would be Strutter. It's just
Strutter.
It in my head at least it would work. So I mean, who knows? I just wish they'd done an Unplugged too. That ship has sailed. Obviously, but you can't go back. But those are just some of the songs I would have wanted to do. If Vinny were to guest, and you kind of said it specifically, Mark, didn't you?
Yeah.
I would have Vinny on A Million to One because he wouldn't be able to go anywhere Bumblebee-ish with that. There's no scope for explosion. You're not going to end out. You're not going to have him going into Boys Are Gonna Rock. So, for you other two, Lonnie, Vinny, what song would you put him on?
I think A Million to One is actually a great choice, and I think it would sound good acoustically, and I think it'd be a good one to put the restraints on Vinny as well, that it wouldn't end up being a train wreck by the end. So, I think that's the perfect choice, actually.
So we've totally marginalized and made him token Vinny. You're playing A Million to One, strumming prettily, not Ken. How about you?
Well, I already mentioned War Machine, but actually, I was also thinking of A Million to One because that was on my list. I was thinking, well, that could have been a toss-up for Vinny also.
Sorry, War Machine is just that leach is running wild.
Yeah.
Go for it.
There are no restraints.
The song needs it.
You have never seen that done with an acoustic guitar. And there he is at the end smashing it and urinating on it.
See it, yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts on Unplugged? I don't have any. Mark, any last final words?
He froze. So no. Oh, there he goes.
That was
there you go.
That was spectacular timing.
I was going to say that the only thing I just thought about was if they were, well, I'm always hoping that maybe in the next year or two, they might put together some sort of a compilation of their acoustic performances on the cruises and maybe do sort of a Unplugged DVD or something like that of those. I think that would be nice to have because I've heard they've done some pretty good performances of songs. So maybe we can't have an MTV Unplugged II, but maybe we can get that.
No, that would be very neat. And I'm just looking up Kiss in Las Vegas, the exclusive, I believe. Does that not come with an extra disc?
It does.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. That acoustic.
It's got
Just have
Coming
6
Home,
songs.
Plaster Caster, Harlock Woman, Christine 16. Ooh, one I don't think anyone's mentioned. Love Her All I Can, Beth, and Going
What?
Blind.
Yeah,
So
that'd be a good one.
we are getting a kind of Unplugged II if you buy that deluxe edition. So that's kind of neat. Lonnie, any final thoughts?
Not really. I think we've sung the album's praises. I think I think that it's a landmark record for the band, and it's one of my personal favorites. So, it's worth celebrating the anniversary of it being released.
Yep, and we can talk about it again next year too. Hey, Kiss episodes, they never get old.
And run into each other.
Ken, if you don't have any final thoughts, let's wrap this up. So, if
Well, I have a final thought.
you do,
I do.
Let's hear it.
I think 7. If you don't have this, you should buy that. Really, I mean, it's great for any new Kiss fans out there. Definitely pick it up either on the Kissology or CD, or if you can find the vinyl. And I agree with Mark that they should, if they're going to do a Kissology 4 or possibly or whatever, that they ought to put all the sail away acoustic stuff together from all the cruises on there, and I think it'd be pretty good.
Yep. Well, I think they should have put out a DVD every year of the Kiss Cruise highlight show.
I agree.
But that just would have made too much sense. So here's the question for everyone who's listening and shaking their heads at some of our picks, probably, because everyone's got their own taste. If you were to put together your own 16-track Kiss Unplugged II album, what would be the songs that you'd want on there? And it's very simple. Everyone's got their own favorites, so go for it. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think of the questions that we've asked of the album today. I'm going to actually go and play this evening. I'm going to put the show together tomorrow because I want to go watch the Kissology thing. So, from Ken, from Lonnie, from Mark, myself, thank you for listening. We will see you next time. Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we've broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.